We are live, but not really. We are studio recorded live or something like that. Not even that. So let's go look at because we've had holidays and so forgotten everything that we ever learned about podcasting. Let's see. We are talking about, we did that one.
So we're on building better habits, and
Yep. Let's see. What do we want to like knock out?
so let's see. We've talked about security, Pomodoro, kitchen sink, automation, improving coding skills, planning and scheduling, breaking things down, taking breaks, meeting prep, criticism and code reviews, and personal branding.
All right. One, let's do we'll call it leading or mentoring.
I like that.
And then what's another one that I've bumped into lately that's sort of have we talked about standards yet? Was that on the list?
Don't think we have yet.
Okay, let's do
Nope.
cool. There's a pair for us. So we'll do leading mentoring and coding standards. Um, Coding standards would be sort of like setting up your own coding standards and stuff like that. We've talked about a little bit, but I think doing that and then also maybe how to work with a group in doing that because I'm literally doing that in three different places right now. And the leading mentoring, I think, is just like exactly that. We'll just sort of see where the conversation goes, but it's something that we need to do. It helps us grow. It helps us become better and building habits. So we'll see if we can build some ways to do some mentoring and leading type habits and see where
Okay.
that goes. All right. Well, okay. Had adjusted. Good enough. I've got some caffeine. So we're going to do our little three, two, one. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season of building better habits. We are building better developers. We have gotten past our holiday specials. I am still here and have some caffeine and all the good stuff that matters, along with probably too much turkey in the last few days. My name is Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developreneur, also a founder of RB Consulting, also a person that's like getting back on track here a little bit because it was a couple of days off. Let's talk about RB Consulting first. RB Consulting is a consulting company. We go out and we do what is called boutique consulting, and we help you do a better job working with technology, whether that is a technology team or software applications, even hardware and stuff like that. Basically, we help you deal with your technology sprawl and get more out of your time invested and find a way to be productive with the technology that is out there today and prepared for tomorrow through integration, simplification, automation, and all of the shuns that are out there that will help you do better as a business owner and a business leader. That being said, we can jump into like our good thing, bad thing, and we're back on our habits. So habits I want to hit up first. I cannot emphasize enough how much like game changing it has been to do a couple of Pomodoro, 30-minute sets. Just make that part of every day. In the past, it was always like I was just going to like Pomodoro my way through the day. And now I don't. I'm like, I just want to make sure that there's a couple in there. Now, part of this may be because my day is often split with I've got meeting things and managing things and project managing things and stuff like that. But when I get down to coding, when I get down to solving problems, I'm like, I need to get this feature in or something along those lines. Having two Pomodoros a day has really helped me. It really helps me with the things that I need to make sure that I touch at least on a regular basis, a daily basis, and make some progress on it. So while I do it with coding, it may be something you want to do with something else you're working on, like your side hustle or something like that. Very good way to make those things a part of every day and make sure that you advance them. Shut everything else out, go focus for 25 minutes or whatever your Pomodoro length is and make some progress. The listing thing is, I'm not going to lie, I've sort of drifted back off of that as I've got my huge list. I do. I have sort of gotten to like one or two things that pop to the top. I'm going back to, I'm really trying to build a habit of making sure every day that what is the thing that I want to get done? What is that, eating the frog thing? What's the thing that has just been dragging that I want to attack? Life blows up a lot lately, and so that's made it tough, but that has caused me to make some progress on those. Automation is a really good one to, we did the 7 days and then automate something. I think that is a really good repetitive thing to do simply because it will keep the automation idea in your head for whatever your daily, weekly routine is. It's helped me. I've added a couple of things here and there. They've not been big things necessarily, but they do save some time and they will, there's an advantage to them. And honestly, as a developer, these may end up being tools that I use elsewhere. Some of them, I literally have used these tools elsewhere already to try to like clean some other things up. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, I have survived Thanksgiving. Busy time, family stuff, all of the goodness that's out there, but also it's exhausting. So gotten through that. Bad thing is now I'm in the aftershocks of having all of these people over and setting up like the Christmas decorations and all that because we wait till after Thanksgiving. So now it looks like my house has been hit by a hurricane or something like that. So I got to work on that today. Somebody who does not have to work on my house, at least, although he might have to work on his, is Mike. How you doing? And introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the founders of Developer, and I'm also the founder of Envision QA. If you're looking to improve the software within your business, be it healthcare, small businesses, e-commerce, we help you analyze what you currently have, help you identify pain points, and figure out those processes that you've kind of moved off to a manual process of getting things done because your systems don't really do what you need them to do. So we help you build custom solutions, and we do it in the mindset of test-driven development so that we reduce the time it takes to implement software, release quality software, and make sure that your users or your customers have the best experience with your product. Uh, let's see, holidays kind of made things a little crazy for me. Uh, been still trying to work on the Pomodoro technique. I It's actually helped me knock some things off my list. So I'm still that list driven person. That for me has never really not been the case. I have had the slight problem though of list creep, where I've had way too much on my list to really get done in a timely manner. So for good and bad, I will say the bad side is I am over prioritizing and under delivering at the moment, and I'm working on tweaking that because of the holidays. My house is also a bit of a mess because we did throw up Christmas decorations yesterday. We also did that the day after. And also, I've been working on the automation. I've been tweaking some of my automation tools as well as that kitchen sink app. I really spent probably way too much time going down rabbit holes, putting together some nice little feature sets and HTML, CSS to kind of play around with some ideas I had for an application. So, with that being said, I'll pass it back to you.
So this episode, I want to dive right into something that's a little bit different from, it may feel similar, but it's a little different to when we were talking about personal branding and some of those kinds of things. What I want to talk about really is the best way to look at it is like leadership or mentoring. And, being a leader, or particularly as you get into your career and you move into your mid-level and your senior level kind of stuff. Leading, mentoring, being a senior, a lot of times is making sure that you're passing on some of the information you know. Now, this is actually something that you can do even if you're beginning. You can be 2 or 3 years into your career and already be at a point where it is useful for you to pass information on, which would be potentially leading or mentoring or training somebody on something that you have done. This can be as simple as, let's say that you're working with somebody that does a lot of integrations, and it's you basically walking through, hey, here's how you do the integration, the setup, the API calls for X, whatever it is happened to be. It could actually be X, like the formerly known as Twitter, or it could be something like a lot of times you're going to see stuff like integrations with like QuickBooks or something with Salesforce or NetSuite, depending on what your company is, or HubSpot or those kinds of things that are out there, or MailChimp or all the other fun things. And no, those aren't people that have sponsored us. But if any of you guys want to, we'll mention her name more often in the future. So the key to the thing about this leading and mentoring and training and teaching, which is something we've talked about ourselves, is that you get a lot out of it. It really, if you're going to pass information on to somebody else, it actually forces you to review the information for yourself, to think through, okay, what is this really? To really coalesce what you have in your head into something that now you can pass on to somebody else. And a lot of times, because it's it's sort of like picking at the edges of these things. A lot of times it forces you to learn it better, to not necessarily master it, but definitely become much more comfortable with it. For example, let's say that let's just use an integration with, let's say HubSpot. Let's say I'm writing an application and I'm going to get some information out of HubSpot via an API. Well, the initial things that I did may have just been that I figured out how to connect. I figured out, I grabbed a token somewhere that I don't even remember how their API works, but let's assume there's some sort of token, some sort of authentication information. I grabbed that, I connected, I hit the one endpoint probably that I needed, grabbed the information back and spun through it. If I'm going to teach this to somebody else, I'm going to actually spend a little more time and talk about, all right, how do I generate or get an API key along, how do I set up permissions for it? Where do I go to review the documentation for the API? What is the general results for an API as far as like maybe I didn't even care about error handling and stuff like that. There may be things like that that they're going to do. So in doing this like handoff or introduction to somebody else, you're going to refine it a little bit and maybe a lot because you're going to think through some of it. What are the questions that people are going to ask? And if you actually go into some sort of a training session or leading them through stuff, they will ask those questions. And so now you've got to go answer them. And that's going to help you learn it better as well. Now, as a career growth path, even if you are a technician, even if you're going to be technical all the way, never want to manage people or anything like that, there still is a value in talking to the people, is dealing with other people. Because if you're just somebody, some mage in an ivory tower, then that doesn't really help the rest of the team. So you need to make sure that you are learning at least some of these soft skills about how to pass your information on, whether that is through a presentation, whether that is through, like we've talked about blogs and things like that, wiki pages, general documentations, how-tos, readmes, and things like that. These things are all important in essentially transitioning information to somebody else. Now, a lot of times it's seen as like a leading or a mentoring because it's not just like, here's a readme and go with it. It's helping somebody walk through getting started on whatever it is. And this may be as simple as, hey, I built this really cool component. Here's how you utilize it. So there's a lot of different ways that you may bump up against this particular habit that we're going to talk about, and a lot of different ways that you can communicate that across to whoever it is it needs to be, whether it's a person, a team, or the rest of the world. Right now, I'm going to send it over to just a person and get your feedback and your thoughts on this before we get into our challenge. Go for it, Mike.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. So the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about, that whole idea of mentoring, leading, and training was back when Google first came out. A lot of people didn't know how to really use search engines or how to identify and find things to do their job. So one of the things that just kind of came to my mind was, how to Google. A lot of people, even today, still don't know how to use search engines properly to kind of narrow down their search. Like their search is very broad. It's more scattershot than refined. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is something that as you build these skill sets, you learn these things on the job or just over time. When you're working with individuals or other people, and you start seeing that, oh, they're struggling trying to find an answer to a problem or solution, it may be as simple as, hey, write down the steps that you kind of go through to solve the problem. Like, hey, how did I go out? I have this ticket or this bug. What's the first step in my mind that I would do to troubleshoot? So sometimes just walking through with junior developers or any developers, even seniors, I've had to do this sometimes because there are some problems that we just have never seen or we tackle one way, but that's maybe not the best way to do it. And I find myself learning as well. So not only do I try to help people when I see them struggling, or it's like, oh, hey, if you try this or you work through these steps to solve a problem like Google, it may help them troubleshoot or be better at problem solving or working tickets. But you also need to be in the mindset, even with those junior developers, that sometimes they may have seen things or used newer technologies or tools that might be a better way. So sometimes when you're training and mentoring, listen to what they say because they may actually teach you something new within this process. So it's kind of a two-way street. It's not always one way. You have to be open up to kind of absorb or take in new information because you're not always your way is not always the right way. Also, this is very helpful, especially if you're in smaller organizations or even larger organizations. If you join a team that has some documentation in place, like how to set up environments, how to set up deploy software, go through those. Or if you are on that team, you built the software, write that type of documentation because when you bring new people on, it's always nice to say, hey, look at this documentation. Let me walk through it with you. You kind of have a checklist. And you kind of want to go through those maybe once a quarter, maybe once a month, depending upon how fast the software is changing. But these types of things are very beneficial, not just to you, but to your teams and organizations as you kind of grow. Everyone grows together. You're not just growing yourself. It's kind of a community effort. But as we grow, I love teaching. I constantly, it's like, oh, hey, there's this cool new idea like AI. And to teach myself, I go through and read documentation, but then I try to do a project or write something down in a way that, like a blog, where I can go step by step, like, okay, here's how I would set it up. Here's the steps I need to do to go find some additional information. Here are some keywords on how to search AI, how to use like ChatGPT or Claude AI. What are the specific commands I need to solve this problem? This gets back to that whole how do you Google? Using the tools, there are many simple ways to use them, but there's also a lot of advanced ways to use that most general users don't use or know about. And these are very useful things to learn and use when you're kind of walking through that mentoring and teaching of others.
So you look at this and there's a wide range of stuff that we can do. And you're going to probably sit there going, okay, well, what's your challenge for the week and how are we going to work with this? This is what I want to do to challenge you this time. And this is going to be an interesting one because I'm thinking about like doing it myself because we challenge ourselves with this. And this can sometimes be challenging to not overuse that word, or maybe I did. What I want you to do is find a venue of some sort to train, to lead, to share information. Now, a venue, a lot of people are going to think of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go like, to the local auditorium and do a speech or something. It may be, you could possibly do that, but you don't have to. One of the best ways I think for you to go look for local user groups or meetups and see if there's somebody that is literally looking for somebody to speak in the next, little bit, next week or the next month. And a lot of times they're very open on the topics. A lot of places need them, so you can do that. Another place you can find is the internet. There is so much out there as far as you may find some Slack user groups, you may find news groups. There's a lot of different, just any kind of discussion type boards They're especially if they are topic specific. So, for example, let's say you're a Java programmer. There are places out there, like I think Java Ranch is still out there, and some of those kinds of sites where people are regularly putting questions out there. You can even go to like your slash dots and some of those kinds of places. There's a lot of places that people are just asking questions, like, how do I do this? And this is a perfect opportunity for you to say, hey, here's how you do it. Particularly if you use one of the sites where it's a community kind of thing and people sort of rate they'll plus or minus your solution. And a lot of times they'll give you more information about, like, oh, yeah, your solution is good, except for you didn't do this, or it breaks in this case, or things like that really do help refine a solution. So that is your challenge for the week, is to post at least one place or to do something, schedule something where you're going to actually train people. Now, if you want to do it in person, then the alternative to that would be listen as you're going through your work week if you're in an office area or if you're on Slack or whatever communication is amongst your coworkers. And within the next week, put together something. If people are asking about, like, hey, can we do this? Or what's this about? Or how would this work? Or there's something that everybody uses that nobody really knows real well. For example, if you've got DevOps stuff, I know I've been in a lot of organizations where somebody set up a really complex bunch of like Jenkins stuff years ago, and now nobody really knows how to do it. So spend a little bit of time and just do a little write up of, like, hey, here's some features that may be useful to yourself and to others as well. Because this actually is a bonus. It's going to push you to learn something, but it's also going to push you a little bit to learn it enough to teach somebody else. So basically, every day for your habit is just spend 5 minutes thinking through where are some places where I could potentially help, and then maybe go like do a quick search or something like that. You don't have to go very deep in it, but by the end of the week, the full challenge is present in some way, form, or fashion, whether it's in written form or something else. And then would really love to hear what you present, like, just a sort of a title or summary. So, like, what did you find? Where did you go? How did you go present this? And, I don't need a write up, but I would love to hear just a sentence or two about your experience with this, because these are the kinds of things that I think we can really feed back into the community with. Is it's like, hey, here's a place where there is people are dying for knowledge of this kind, and these are great ways to share knowledge and do it quickly and easily and things like that. Because I would love to hear your experience. As always, one of the best ways to do that is to shoot us an email at info@developreneur.com. We also have a contact us form out on developreneur.com. You can leave us comments and feedback, whether you're checking out the YouTube Developreneur channel, whether you're wherever you're listening to podcasts. If you're listening to this as a podcast, just we're happy to get feedback however you get it. We've got a Facebook page. We got at Developreneur at Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Someday we'll eventually just call it X, but it's still the place formerly known as Twitter. But we'd love to get your feedback and just sort of see where you're going with this. Now, where we are going with this is we are still going to be like chugging through this season. We will not finish up before the end of the year. So we'll cover a couple more episodes. We'll have a couple holiday specials, and we'll come back in, which will probably be very helpful as we're wrapping up, getting to the end of a year and stepping in a new year, to have a bunch of things that you can work with to build better habits. Because a lot of people, there's this thing called resolutions at the beginning of the year. A lot of people do those. If you can do that and build a habit instead of just a resolution that you forget about 3 days later, you will find that it will make a huge improvement on you becoming and building a better developer within yourself. That being said, go out there and build yourself a better day. Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material.
So one additional thing that kind of came to my mind when you were given the challenge was, given that we're in the holidays and there's a lot of cooking going on and involved. So you could even take a non-technical approach to this, especially if you have kids. Spend some time in the kitchen and maybe go through, like, teach them how to make Christmas cookies or how to make banana bread. Recipes are a very wonderful way. It's a very structured process of kind of taking something like directions on something and actually implement them and actually make something. So whereas code, you kind of, yes, you can see wonderful websites, things of that nature. Sometimes the code we write is invisible. You really don't see it. So it's hard to really show that we did something. But if you're teaching someone and you're training someone, it's a very easy way to go. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's the steps we're going to do. And we actually have an end product that we can actually enjoy. We can eat and consume this holiday.
Wow. All right. I'm going to go like bonus that just gave me a great idea because it is holiday season and stuff like that. And you guys, because you're, special, you get to you put up with seeing our ugly mugs. We're going to throw you a slightly different challenge, or at least a variation you can do. Find a game that you like to play and teach somebody else how to play it. Now, this could be as simple as you know, a battleship or tiddlywinks or something like that, or something more complicated like some massive tabletop game or role-playing game, or some card games can get really complicated really fast. But this is perfect to do actually in a group too. Let's teach somebody, grab a group at your family gathering and say, hey, let's all play, euchre, or let's all play, Texas No Hold'em, or whatever it happens to be. It's like you can pick stuff, there's a card game or it's a board game, whatever it is, because that again is the same thing. And games are actually one of the biggest ones because it's always like people are going to say, well, what are the rules around this? You're like, oh, I need to go look at the rules. And that's things like classics like Uno. Like people have different rules, so you have to actually talk through it. So that's a bonus challenge for you guys. Now, I'm going to go consume a little bit more caffeine so we can do some more of this. We will be back next episode. As always, please give us feedback. We'd love to hear it, especially again, I can't emphasize enough. We're getting to the end of a year. We're going to be starting a new year. Now, this last year, we made major changes and did a lot of shifting around how the podcast went. We're not going to have as big a change, but we would love to have your feedback to see where you would like to see us change, adding information, deleting stuff. All of those things are on the table because we're doing this to serve you, and we want to make sure that we provide you the best entertainment, edutainment as there is out there, so that you guys will keep coming back and find it. We'll respect the time that you're giving to us. Thank you so much for doing that. Go out there and have a good one, and we will talk to you next time.